everyone, welcome back to my channel. I'm Andrea and it's nice to have you guys here. A friend of mine on Instagram, a friend in real life, had also messaged me on Instagram asking if I'd ever done a video on how I deal with stress and anxiety and depression, especially with being a grad student. She's like, I feel like you're probably under a lot of stress, but you seem like you're coping pretty well. And I get that a lot. I hear a lot from people, especially some of my grad school friends who I might only see them every so often around the office. And I've had more than a couple people say, oh my gosh, I look at your Instagram and I wonder, how do you do it all? And you look like you're really on top of things. And first of all, people, it's Instagram. Nothing on Instagram is actually real life. That's not on my list, but it should be. But number one, beware of social media and not falling into the trap of thinking everyone else has a better life than you. Because we all know logically that social media is basically a highlight reel of someone's life, and we don't usually share the not so good things. I mean, I definitely try to share here on my YouTube channel, as well as in Instagram stories, kind of the realities of day-to-day life, whereas my main feed on Instagram is more like a scrapbook. I don't really want to look back and remember the not so good days. I want to remember the nicer days. So that's what I put on my main Instagram feed. So I messaged my friend back and said, well, I've done a video on my story, my kind of background with anxiety and depression, which I will try to link in a card or down below. It's a really old video. It's one of my, I think I did it in the first 6 months that I was on YouTube, so it's one of the original ones, because we're coming up on 2 years that I've been doing this now. So it's an older video, and I don't, from memory, I think I had a bit of advice towards the end, but it wasn't really a kind of tips and tricks video. It was more of, here's my story and kind of trying to contribute to destigmatizing mental health. So I thought it was time for a bit of an update and to do a video on kind of the practical day-to-day how I deal with anxiety and depression. Disclaimer, none of these tips are meant to be necessarily in place of professional treatment. If you are really struggling with anxiety, depression, stress, I highly recommend going to see someone. I know that getting mental health treatment, depending on your country, can be really difficult. Here in the US, it's not that easy. I'd say if you're a student, at least here in the US, students do have it a little bit easier. Any college, university, almost all of them that I'm aware of have a counseling center where you can just walk in and start receiving treatment out. And I think I mentioned that in my first video because that's what I did. So none of my advice in this video is meant to take the place of professional help. My general tip is, if you're just having a bad day or a bad week, these tips will help you. If your bad day or bad week has turned into a bad month or a bad year, or you honestly can't remember the last time you were happy and not stressed and anxious, that's when you need to go in and talk to a professional of some kind. Whether that's at a community center, at a counseling center, at your church, someone, but don't do it by yourself. Getting into kind of day-to-day, how I cope, how I handle it, especially as a final year PhD student with all of the stress that entails. Here are my tips. I've got them written down on a little notebook. There's a few different categories here. The first are the basics. You need to be sleeping. You need to make sure that you are getting enough sleep. If you are struggling to sleep, I'm a big fan of herbal remedies. So there's a sleep support formula that I get at Whole Foods that's really good. Always do your research on those. And also if you are on any other medications, another disclaimer, if you are on any medications, talk to your doctor before you take any over-the-counter stuff. But if you do need some extra help, start with some of the over-the-counter things first. If that still isn't working, then you might want to talk to your doctor about something that they can provide, because if you are not sleeping, your defenses are already going to be knocked down, and it's going to be really hard to cope with anything. So sleep is super important. I would also say, before you try any kind of sleep supplements or anything from your doctor, make sure that you're going to bed at a reasonable time. And it might take you a few weeks to adjust your sleep schedule, but I pretty much try to go to bed at around 10, 11, and then I wake up around 7 or 8. With my fibromyalgia, I need 9 hours. I can function on 8. I can cope on 7. I have survived on 6, but that will knock me out the next 2 days. Know your body and know what your body needs, but sleep is super important. And it could take you some time to get into a better place with your sleep, but that should be one of the first things that you attempt to do. If you're struggling with stress and anxiety and depression, you need to make sure you're getting enough sleep. And not too much, because depression will make you sleepy and it will make you want to sleep for 14 hours, but you also don't want to do that. So making sure that you're sleeping enough, but not too little and not too much. It's a bit like Goldilocks. Balanced eating is also really important. So making sure that you are getting your lean protein, your carbs for energy, fruits and vegetables, all of that good stuff. Making sure that you're getting that good balance is really important. Also, drinking lots of water. I am never far away from my water. I also have a little app on my phone where I can track my water. I don't usually go into the app and actually track how much water, but I do have alerts set. So every couple hours, something will pop up on my phone saying, drink some water. And also minimal alcohol. Minimal alcohol and minimal anything that's not completely healthy for your body. None of that is really good for our bodies. You know, excessive candy and sugary treats. For me, I also avoid caffeine. I can have a little bit, but I tend to drink decaf because too much caffeine eventually affects my pain with my fibromyalgia. So it will help the brain fog, but if I'm drinking a lot of caffeine day after day after day, my pain just suddenly gets worse after a few weeks. Minimize any of the things that you know your body doesn't want as much of. So those are kind of the basics: sleep, food, water, and minimizing things that our bodies are less happy with. When your body is feeling better, your mind will feel better. And that's just kind of what I've noticed. So that's a good starting place with kind of the basics. Next, when you've got a lot going on, be realistic with your goals and tasks. So don't overplan, and stay organized. So however you do that is up to you. Everyone has a different way of kind of staying organized. I'm a huge fan and proponent of the bullet journal, primarily because bullet journals are so flexible and they can be whatever the user needs them to be. But I've also been using the productivity planner, which I have done a video on before, and I am going to try to do an update video soon. Staying organized and then using these planners as a way of kind of setting realistic and attainable goals, and not saying that you're going to accomplish some major massive task in only a week. Being able to kind of break down tasks into smaller, more reasonable steps is kind of a really good way to go about it. It will just make things easier for you and will help eliminate some of that stress. Whereas when you're relying on random post-it notes of lists that you've written down that get lost, that disorganization is only going to cause more stress. So if part of your stress and anxiety is stemming from school or work tasks and projects and just feeling like you're drowning under the weight of those, finding a way, a planning system of organizing all of that will really help you. I honestly think, I don't think I would have gotten through this past year from last January to now without my bullet journal. I don't think I would have gotten through my PhD exams, the comp exam, the portfolio, the comp exam, all the comps reading, prospectus writing, colloquy. I definitely wouldn't have gotten through drafting the whole dissertation without my bullet journal. So staying organized is a really good thing. But Also give yourself downtime, so that's kind of the third category. So stress, anxiety, depression is usually triggered from feeling overwhelmed. For me, the stress of knowing a project or a deadline is kind of coming up will then trigger the anxiety, which then triggers the depression, because I'll get so anxious that I then start to feel like, well, it's just hopeless, and my response then is I just want to go lay down and pull the blanket up over my head. So giving yourself some downtime to go lay down and pull the blanket up over your head is kind of a good thing. You want to find that balance between wanting to live under your duvet in your bed, as tempting as it is, and feeling like you're always kind of pushing yourself. If you've been following my blogs or if you watched my last bullet journal video, I mentioned that I was doing a 30-day writing challenge throughout January, and I did really great for the first 2 weeks, and I was writing every day, and I was well ahead of my goal, and I was, I'd set a task of doing like only 300 words on Saturdays and Sundays, and that first weekend I did 1,000+ words each day. By the second weekend, after 2 full weeks, I was dead. I couldn't think, I couldn't function, and so I really learned, even though I knew instinctively that I needed the downtime, after working through that first weekend in January, I really realized, oh, holy cats, I really can't do this. I need my weekends off. I recommend giving yourself 2 days off, whether that is Saturday and Sunday, or if you work a job where you're working on the weekends, but you've got Tuesday and Wednesday off from work, whatever you can do. Or if you can't take 2 full days off, if you've got stuff kind of every day of the week, then make sure then your evenings are free or your mornings are free, but find time that equals the equivalent of 2 full days off. So for me, Saturday is my do nothing day. Saturday is my day to sleep in and catch up on any sleep that I've missed during the week. It's my day to have a lazy breakfast in bed. It's my day to binge watch Netflix and YouTube and really just do nothing. Unless I want to go out and do something, I don't do anything on Saturdays. And then Sundays are my day to go to lunch with my mom and my sister, go do my grocery shopping, film my YouTube videos, do chores around the house, do my dishes, take out my trash, do laundry. Some of those things I'll do on Saturdays, but if it didn't get done on Saturday, then it gets done on Sunday. And basically get ready for the week so that when Monday comes, I'm not feeling like, oh my God, it's Monday. You really want to kind of get yourself into a position where you're not dreading Mondays. I'm not saying you have to look forward to Mondays, but to just get to a point where you're not dreading them is a really good first step. And then going along with the downtime is self-care. So I used to laugh about self-care. That's really bad, I know, but I couldn't help it. It just sounded so new age, psychological, psychobabble. It just sounded like, I don't know. It didn't really fit with me. I used to think I didn't really need self-care, that I was doing fine on my own. I was not doing fine. Now I think we're talking about self-care a lot more. I think I just didn't really I still don't really like the term self-care, but it is important to take care of yourself and to prioritize yourself. For me, part of that is having a morning and evening routine. Now, I don't do these every single morning and every single evening, and I don't do them exactly the same. They each have like multiple steps. I have them all on a master list, but I don't do them all every single morning. So it's kind of whatever my body kind of feels like, whatever my mind feels like, whatever I think I need the most. But also with self-care, I also do things during the day and then each week. So during the day, I try to make sure I'm drinking plenty of water. I limit my caffeine. I try to have 2 snacks and or lunch. So making sure that I'm eating and keeping my blood sugar at a stable level, not skipping meals or snacks so that I get to dinner and I'm absolutely starving. Look at something pretty. So I try to have, if you watched my recent office tour video, you'll see there's a lot of like inspirational art and prints, and I've got pictures of London and Oxford. I will go to Costco sometimes and buy fresh flowers. So just having stuff in my space that makes me happy and looks nice is important. Using a beautifully scented lotion or some other luxury product. If you're a luxury person, obviously. If you don't care about those things, then you don't care about those things. But it's why I keep a bottle of the Caudalie facial spray at my desk, because it's pretty, it's luxurious, it smells amazing, and it kind of wakes me up. And then mint tea is another favorite thing. I just love drinking it. So, and then during the week, I found this list and then I kind of altered it to what was appropriate to me. But in someone else, I can't even remember who it was, but they had a blog on self-care. They had their kind of morning and evening routine as well as things they did during the day. But then they also had a list of things they did 3 times per week, and a different one each time. And so the list that I came up with: read from a fashion magazine, buy something new just for you, and that can be, a $5 face mask from somewhere and then come home and do the face mask, or a new nail polish or a new lipstick. So it doesn't have to be a really expensive item, and that can extend to whatever your interests are. So, a new fun t-shirt at Target if you like graphic tees, or I don't know, I know what I like, but people with different interests, it might be a new book. Sometimes just giving yourself the time to wander around a bookstore and find just the right book. Just that act right there is kind of like self-care to me, which reminds me, I haven't done that in a long time, so I might have to do that. And then elsewhere on this list, I've got lose yourself in a novel for a few hours. So, you could have one of your things for the week be going to the bookstore to find a new book, and then the second thing, another day, is to spend a couple hours just reading that book. Watch a few episodes of a favorite show, so sometimes giving yourself permission to Netflix and chill. If you do that every day, it might be a problem, but if you do that once a week, it's perfectly okay, and probably your brain needs it. Cook and eat a delicious meal, make a craft or some art, meet up with a friend, take a bubble bath, do an at-home facial or a spa day, spa night at home, writing in my novel, which I've been neglecting for months now. So it can be something different, but having a list like that of things that you don't do necessarily on a daily basis, but that you want to make sure you are freeing up time at least a few days a week, is really helpful, because you don't want your week to go by and all you've done is work and you haven't done anything just for you. Having standard routines that you can kind of fall back on, that maybe you're flexible with on a day-to-day basis, but overall you've got these routines to fall back on, as well as daily and weekly treats and ways of just taking care of yourself and putting yourself first, are really good. And then another thing, kind of the second to last thing, or the last main tip and then final thought, reach out. So if you are struggling, don't isolate yourself. Meet up with friends, go out for a cup of coffee or a drink or a lunch. Give yourself that time with your friends. Don't isolate yourself, don't lock yourself away, which is really tempting, especially when you are really struggling with anxiety and depression. And if you don't feel like you can go out, invite them in. Sometimes with my fibromyalgia, I just don't have the energy to go out as much as I wish I did. I don't, but I've got some really wonderful friends who are more than happy to come over to my place, and we'll sit and have some yummy food and some drinks, and we'll watch a movie and just kind of relax here. Reaching out to your friends, reaching out to a therapist, being honest with your therapist. Learn to rely on them and let them help you. And then the final thought, because this video has gotten really long, not to negate everything that I've just said, but find what works for you. So the tips that I have just mentioned are the things that work for me, and they're how I do, but I would never recommend that you follow my tips to the letter. Ideas from what I may have just shared that really resonate with you, that you feel like, oh yeah, I think I could do that, that would be good, or yeah, I do like doing that, I should do that more often. Take what works and go from there. Because you can find so many lists online about self-care and self-care routines and self-care help and tips, and Pinterest certainly has a ton of them. So I'm a huge proponent of kind of reading through as many of those as possible and watching other videos like mine and seeing how other people kind of cope with it, and then see which of those ideas really kind of click with you and sound like something that you would like to incorporate in your life. As much as I love the idea of morning routines and evening routines, they don't always work for me. I have routines, but I don't live by them. They're very flexible, and I make them work for me, not the other way around. So definitely find what works for you, and don't feel like you have to copy anyone else's ideas or tips to the letter, because we're all individuals, and our stress and our anxiety and our depression is all triggered by different things, and so the way that we approach them and approach dealing with them is all going to be different. And also, at the end of the day, don't be so hard on yourself. If you honestly are at a point where all you feel like doing on a certain day is crawling back in bed, it's okay to do that. You don't have to cope all day, every day. If you can't get out of bed for a week, you need to go see someone. But, you know, if you've been working your backside off for 2 weeks straight and you're just tired, don't beat yourself up because you really need a bed day. Because we all need that sometimes. And even though I might look on Instagram like I'm super productive and I'm doing things all the time, you guys don't see all the days that I'm just in bed all day. I mean, the last 3 days, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I was in bed with migraines. So, you know, I'm not gonna post a picture of that, but those days do exist. And I care enough about myself that I give myself that downtime when I need it. So don't be ashamed to give yourself the same. If any of my viewers have other tips and things that you guys do that are not what I've mentioned, or that are what I've mentioned, and you want to kind of really vote for that tip and put more support towards any particular tip, please put it down in the comments. Let me know what you guys do. I love learning from you guys. This is definitely a two-way street, so definitely put your tips and tricks in the comments, or just say hi in the comments. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all soon in the next video. Bye-bye.